Greetings everyone, I hope you're good. Let's analyze Nasdaq 100. I'm on the monthly chart as you guys can see, and we can see that the current month's candlestick at this point in time seems to be bullish. I'm just gonna go down to the weekly chart. So here we are on the weekly chart, and if you guys recall, in the last video I spoke about how we have this W structure at this point, which has a neckline at that point, and I'd said that the anticipation was for price to come back to the neckline of the W structure to test it, as we were hoping that, or rather expecting, that price would continue to move up. And at this point in time, it looks like that's actually what's happening, because if you actually have a look at it, we can see that at this level over here we have a candlestick pattern called railroad tracks, which confirms that indeed this neckline of this W structure has held, and that at this point in time we expect price to move further up, at least to this level. And if it does break this level, we will wait for price to head back to the level again, and at this level we would look for further buying opportunities, as the anticipation is for price to reach this level over here, and that, in my humble opinion, would actually complete this W structure that we have over here. And to add to that, also bear in mind that we had spoken about this level and that it is carrying a whole lot of liquidity at that point, so it actually makes sense for price to reach this level, which is a very strong level of resistance. As you guys can see, we had multiple rejections at that level, right? So what we should be doing, in my humble opinion, going forward, especially in the next week or the next weeks, is to look for further buying opportunities, in my humble opinion. To add to that, I think I should just also remind you that you should always monitor the situation and ensure that we're up to speed in regards to what's happening in as far as fundamentals go, right? Because I'd also mentioned this candlestick over here, which is a liquidity candlestick, as well as this one at this level over here, right? So these two candlesticks are carrying a lot of liquidity where they end, and as much as the anticipation at this point is for price to continue moving up, I'd said that we might potentially see price come down to those levels to grab that liquidity and then possibly push up to form this very nice W structure, as you guys can see, right? So anyway, let's proceed. The next thing that I'm going to do is head down to the daily chart. So here we are on the daily chart, right? In fact, before we go to the daily chart, I think I just want to go back to the weekly chart, because I still want to add that neckline of that W structure. So just bear with me while I add it. It's very much important, and I don't want us to forget about it. So let's just make it a blue color. There we go. Right, now we can head down to the daily chart. Right, so here we are on the daily chart. You guys know by now that on the daily chart, the first thing that I'm going to do is to add my daily channel. So just bear with me while I do so. Let's see our daily channel. Just bear with me, guys. There goes our daily channel, more or less. And remember that we just need to ensure that our channels, as much as possible, are as accurate as can be, just to ensure that at the end of the day, when we do execute, our execution is also very much accurate, right? So here we are on the daily chart. So what else do we see on the daily chart that we should be paying attention to? Another thing that I see is that as much as we have we have this W structure on the weekly chart, which has a neckline at that level, we also have what seems to be a very nice smaller W structure at that point, which has a neckline at that level, right? And we can see that currently price is actually testing a very strong level of resistance, as we had multiple touches at that level. And what may actually happen is, as much as we're anticipating that the market should continue to move further up, what may actually happen is price may come down slightly to at least test the neckline of this smaller W structure, and should it do so, we will look for possible buying opportunities at this point, right? The key phrase is possible buying opportunities. We're not just going to buy, we're going to look for possible buying opportunities, which means that we need to gather more of evidence as to why we should be buying at that level, right? But at this point in time, as I say, should price retrace to this level, we will most likely look for possible buying opportunities, as the anticipation, as I had said, is for the market to continue to move further up, right? So what I'm going to do is actually add a neckline to that smaller W structure, because it is also very much important. Let's see, so just bear with me while I do so. So we can say that more or less this is our neckline, right? The next thing that I'm going to do is utilize the Fibonacci retracement tool. We just want to have a look and see if the neckline of the W structure aligns with any of the key numbers that we have on the Fibonacci retracement tool, right? So there we go. We can see that the neckline, which is here, of this W structure actually aligns more or less with the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement level. So as I said, should price from where it is come down to this level, we will most likely look for possible buying opportunities at that level, right? As the anticipation is for the market to push further up, right? Also, another thing that is very much important is the fact that we have a gap at this level, right? And as I said to you, gaps represent liquidity, and liquidity needs to be grabbed by the market, because liquidity is actually money, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So another thing that I want to point out is, as much as we have this W structure, the smaller W structure over here, just bear in mind that we also had this head and shoulders pattern, which has a neckline at around about this level or so, right? This is the left hand shoulder, that's the head, and this is the right hand shoulder, right? And this level over here is the neckline of that pattern or that structure. So this level over here is also a very strong level of resistance, as what normally happens is when we have head and shoulders patterns and the neckline has been broken to the bottom side, price a lot of the time goes back to the neckline to test it, and then pushes further down, right? So it's also a possibility, because we can see that the neckline has not been tested as yet, and this may be a test in the future, that is, of the neckline of that pattern, and we might possibly see a reversal, right? So as I said, we just need to ensure that we are up to speed in as far as all the possible outcomes that we may experience in as far as the market goes, right? Anyway, I'm just gonna add that neckline as well. It's very much important as well, so just bear with me while I do so. Here we go, here goes our neckline, more or less. I just hope that my lines are not too confusing. The reason why I add all of these lines is just so that as we move down to the smaller time frames, we don't forget about the various structures that we have been speaking about from the higher time frames, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So from here, what I'm going to do is actually head down to the H4 chart. On the H4 chart, I'm just going to fix my my lines just to ensure that they are as accurate as can be. There we go, that should be fine, right? So here we are on the H4 chart. On the H4 chart, what is it that we see? What is it that we see that is important, that we should be paying attention to, right? Let's have a look. We can see on the H4 chart that as much as on the daily chart we had, or rather we have this nice W structure, on the H4 chart, the structure has presented itself as an inverted head and shoulders pattern, as you guys can see, with this side being the left shoulder, this being the head, and this being the right hand shoulder, right? So it doesn't really matter, you can call it a W structure or an inverted head and shoulders pattern. It's the same concept at play, so it doesn't really matter, right? So let's proceed. So what else do we see in regards to this particular chart? And in fact, before we continue, I just want to add my H4 channel as well. So let's see, how would I add my H4 channel? Let's have a look. Just bear with me, guys. I would add it in this manner. Let's see. There we go, more or less. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. So can you guys see that in regards to the H4 chart of Nasdaq 100, we had, just bear with me, we had a touch over here in as far as that trend line goes, another touch over here, and we saw price almost, or rather I think it has failed to hold price at that level, as the market is closed on the other side of that trend line. So as much as that's the case, what may actually happen is, because of these touches, right, and at this point it seems as if the market is closed just outside the trend line, and it looks like the trend line has been broken. It is quite possible that the market may push further down from that level, right? And as we speak, a lot of traders and investors have sold at this point because they were anticipating the third touch, right? They were anticipating the third touch of that trend line, and they sold. Some of them have been taken out due to their stop losses being too tight, but a lot of people have sold at this point, in my humble opinion. And as I said, guys, that indeed we might see price move further down to test the neckline of that W structure, and at this point we will most likely look for further buying opportunities, as the anticipation is for the market to move further up, right? So that is my analysis really in as far as Nasdaq goes, right? But in as far as looking for buying or selling opportunities at this point, I don't see any. So we will see how the market unfolds in the next week. Yeah, so that's it, guys, as far as my analysis goes. And before I close, let me just also mention that we also have what seems to be, actually, this candlestick over here is a liquidity candlestick, and it tells us that there's a lot of liquidity at this level, and that the market may possibly push further down to collect this liquidity as well, right? So just be careful. Just ensure that you use good money management and your discipline is up to scratch, right? Anyway, peace out.